What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Moonie, and welcome back to A Good Life podcast. Jess, how are we doing?
Doing great, Moon. How are you, my love?
I'm doing fabulous, I'm so excited that we're doing this. And, the goal is to bring a lot of joy and laughter and connection to viewers at home or in their car, wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, man. I mean, let's be honest. It has been a trying first 100 days with this Trump presidency. I'm in DC, for those that don't know. Mooney's in New York. So it's hitting home. That's like the least of it. Like it's really hitting home. A lot of people have lost their jobs, have been furloughed. And that's a big impetus for us starting this podcast, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure. We realized that joy and laughter was a form of resistance, and the best kind of resistance. And so we wanted to be part of the solution, right? And instead of being part of the problem. So here we are, and we're really excited to be here and tell the viewers, the folks at home, like what they can expect from our show.
so this show, A Good Laugh, is exactly that. We are really looking at humor as a way to process pain. And sometimes the best way to do that is to find the funny, the irony, the absurdity in the reality. And what we like to do at the beginning of every show, we just do sort of like a round robin. We'll have a special guest for you guys every week. Most of these people are comedians, but not necessarily all the time. They'll be fellow creatives just like Mooney and I, people who also bet on themselves. Mooney and I both have very different backgrounds from comedy. I was a journalist for 15 years. I worked for Time Magazine, ABC News, did broadcast journalism. Mooney, want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, still a lawyer, still working for the man. You know what I'm saying? But it's lawyer by day, stand up at night, right? And so it took, our mom passed away. I can't believe her anniversaries of her passing, a 10-year anniversary of her passing is coming up in April of this year. And it took mommy passing away to give me the courage to really pivot, as you know, Jess. But for the viewers who are watching aren't aware of that. And it took a lot of courage, a lot of boldness. And it was me dealing with my own mortality is really what gives me the courage to get out on stage and knowing that, hey, you know what? We got to talk about it. One day I'm going to die. One day you're going to die. We hope that it's, years and generations from now, but we don't know. No one knows when that time is going to be for any of us. So what are we going to do with the time that we have? Right. And so I'm just like, okay, so what I want to do is I want to be a vessel for joy, laughter, connection. I want to bring levity to a lot of people, to situations in life. And so that is what got me to comedy. But the big why for me is becoming the number one TV talk show host in America, as you know, Jess. That all started with my Friendlies days, right? We're waitressing at Friendlies, and back in the day, I've had many lives, and so I think that has really served me. It has made me more empathetic, given me a higher awareness. I see people more than the average person sees their fellow human, right? And I think that's one of my superpowers, being able to
Well, I
connect with
think
people.
it's definitely one of your superpowers. And you're my oldest friend, as I like to say, my first friend, as my big sis. And you've inspired me. I saw your bravery. I saw you betting on yourself. I saw you taking, I mean, if anybody knows Mooney, you know that you can go to her for any sort of life advice, self improvement, self development, coaching. This woman has, like, not to be scary, but like almost like lipstick on her mirror type of motivational stuff, like plastered.
Yeah, what was that? Was it Being Mary Jane? Remember that character, Gabrielle Union's character? You're like, that's literally me. Like, I've got my post-it notes. I'm always like, okay, like, I'm listening to my affirmations in the morning, gratitude. Like, I have my holy daily routines, like just getting myself in the zone. Like, it's all about elevation, keeping myself at a high vibration, because we have big dreams, right? And
Yes, we
we
do.
have our big why with Haiti, right? And building schools and hospitals and factories and mommy's name. Like, this is our big why, and we know we're going to do it, and it's just a matter of time. And we want to be of service. We want a world.
Well, before we start dipping into the deep end of things, let's talk a little bit about how this show's going to be structured. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a guest on every week, and the first thing that we're going to do is talk about what brought you a good laugh this week. So, Mooney, I'm going to toss that question right to you. What brought you a good laugh this week?
Oh my gosh. So, mommy's anniversary is coming up, her passing, and she's been on my mind. She's on my mind every day, but more so than usual, right? And so I was thinking about just her journey, this 10-month journey from the time she was diagnosed to the time that she passed. And she was in and out of the hospital. As you know, she passed from breast cancer. And there was one time she had surgery. She had a mastectomy, right? And there was this masculine presenting lesbian surgeon there. And mommy being mommy, she's always trying to play matchmaker. Like she didn't even care what my type was. She didn't ask me like if I was interested. And this is straight out of surgery in true mommy fashion. She's just like, Mooney, what about the surgeon? She's a lesbian. Be good. You a lawyer and she's a doctor, and that'll be a good partnership. Yeah, and I'm just like, Mom.
Mommy was always like, you got to find someone on your level. You got to find
Yeah,
someone on your
yeah,
level. So
yeah,
she's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
attorney,
yeah,
doctor. That
doctor.
sounds like the Cosby Show reboot, but queer.
But yeah, it's just like, and that just brought a smile to my face, a good laugh, like just thinking about her and how she was always trying to be a matchmaker at every chapter of her life, right?
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I
And so
love that. That
what,
brought me joy. You just
yeah,
sharing that story.
yeah. And so what brought you a good laugh this week?
Well, I guess in a different vein, I actually just got back from a little romantic getaway with the hubby. We went down
Ooh.
to the Keys, which was
Okay,
lovely.
keys.
And the last time I was there, it was for New Year's. And if anybody knows anything about the Keys, New Year's is the place to be. And it's very queer. It's very fun. It's very extra. It's all of that energy that I love. But girl, and outside of those dates, though, it is very blanquito and it's very AARP. So,
Wow.
so
Wow.
we stayed at a lovely establishment. The average age was probably 65. But
Wow.
you know your girl, like I was still strutting on them, still strutting. I was like purposely dropping things, Moon, just to like show off my knees. Like I was like, I still got them good knees.
Right. And wasn't there, because our last name is Devereaux, right? Wasn't there like a drag queen or something with your exact name?
It was wild. Like I felt like this woman was living the life I was meant to live.
Wow.
We went to the birdcage, we saw the drag show there, and there was a drag queen named Jessica Devereaux, and I lost it. Like
Oh my
we
God.
met, and it was so funny because I love meeting some drag queens. They were like, "We apologize, like she's not as cute as you. Before you meet her, just set your expectations." Like they were
Were
hilarious.
you
I
able to
just had
get
a
on
blast.
stage? Were you able to get on
Oh,
stage?
yes, I did, darling.
Yes,
You know
yes,
your girl. I
yes,
got on
yes.
stage,
Work it,
and my
honey.
husband, he's such a trooper. He was loving everything, and he turned to me at one point and he goes, "Honey, I feel like this is your playlist," like in the middle of the performance. A really good time. So let's now that we talked about, I hope that brought a smile to people's faces. But now that we've talked about all this good stuff, let's talk a little bit about you. I believe the listeners, the viewers, however you're consuming this lovely podcast, want to know kind of what you talked a bit about this earlier. What got us to this point? Why did we just decide after all this time of being in this corporate lifestyle to be creative, to express ourselves in this way? You mentioned friendlies earlier, and you also mentioned you want to be a TV talk show host. I know there's a connection there because, as I said, you are my first friend, so I know a lot of these stories. But share that story with our listeners.
Yeah, so man, I remember I was a waitress at Friendly's. I took a year off from college because mommy couldn't afford to have both of us in school, right? So I took a year off and I worked as a waitress. That was one of the best experiences of my life. It taught me so much about humbling myself, about, like I said, seeing people, acknowledging people, connecting with people, how to make people laugh, how to engage with people. And there was this one friend I had, fellow waitress, and we were hanging out at her house, and there was like the Ellen show came on, and she was cracking up. and I said something funny, and she's like, Moonie, you're hilarious. She's like, you can do that. Like, you see what Ellen's doing? Like, you could totally do that if you want to. And that moment, I must have been like 18, 19, or 20 years old. A seed was planted. Of course, though, growing up in an immigrant household, the only options were you could become a lawyer or a doctor, right?
Or failure. That's
Or
always a thing.
failure. And then after like coming out to mommy, I was like, yeah, I feel bad. I got to give this woman something. So I was like, I'll give her the ESQ. I was like, I'll become an attorney, kind of offset the disappointment. And so, like, just got on that hamster wheel, right? Autopilot mode, and suppressed. But the goal was in law school was to become this entertainment lawyer. I wanted to be a deal maker. That's what, and it just didn't happen for me. And it wasn't for lack of trying, lack of effort. Like, it just wasn't meant to be. And it wasn't until mommy passed away, I did this amazing personal development workshop called Momentum Education. Shout out to Momentum. That really started this whole, this pivot in my life.
Yeah. It was almost like the water you needed for that seed to grow.
Oh, yes. Well said, 100%. And the sunlight. And there was this one exercise where I was surrounded by 50 people. I'm in the middle of a circle, and they kept whispering to me, what do you want? And I went in there thinking that I want to be this entertainment lawyer. But I finally was brave enough to come out of the shadows and come out, so to speak, and say, I want to be the number one TV talk show host in America. And in that moment, I had to own it. And I was started thinking to myself, okay, like, this is what you want. What are the next steps to that? What did Ellen do? So she started stand-up comedians. 2 weeks later, I booked myself at an open mic. I find out there that it's a competition. So I'm like, fuck, like, holy cow, like, talk about elevating the stakes, right? And I ended up winning that competition. I still got the $25 that I signed and everything dated like that from that event, and just started building on that. And we wrote our first movie, Butch Baby Mama,
Yes, we did.
during the pandemic, and we just
Before we
have
get
been.
into before we get into that though, I just remember you also taking a class, and in Mooney fashion, you like skipped all the classes, right? Like you went to the
Yeah,
first and then you
yeah.
went to the last where you actually had to perform and they recorded you. And I remember you being like, Jess, I signed up for this class, but I literally only went to two of the classes. Watch it. And this was right after I had my first child. And I remember watching it and being like, oh, you got something. Like, I just was, like, blown away. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean, like, you never showed up to class? Like, this is all the techniques, this is all the coaching." You're like, "No, straight up, like, I went to the first class, and then
Yeah.
I just went to the
And then
last
I
class."
went
And
to the performance. And
I was blown away.
that was in 2017. And mind you, all of this, like, me taking stand up seriously, was June of 2021. So, like, do you see how many years had passed since that moment? Like, even then, like, I wasn't ready. So, like, for people out there who are like, are stopping and going, stop. Don't beat yourself up. Like, the time will happen when it's meant to, but it's a mixture of free will and fate. Like, you have to put in the work. You've got to decide, okay, I'm going now. I'm taking this leap now, right? Like, and that's what I did. Like, because like I said, 4 years from that moment where you watch that stand-up video, like, it took me time to finally be like, you know what? I'm betting on myself. I'm going for this thing. Like, it's going to be challenging, but it's worth it. I'm worth it.
Amen. And it took us time to even write our first screenplay because we had a German of an idea prior to writing Butch Baby Mama, but that was maybe like, I think at least 3 or 4 years when we finally wrote it. It took like the idea first sparked, years before that. And I
Yeah,
think with a
yeah.
lot of people, COVID forced us to stop and reprioritize.
100%.
And when we looked at our lives and we already got the message about our mortality, I think that we had such a blessing in mommy in the fact that we were able to be there when she transitioned and we saw like like
Or
her last breath,
the last
like
breath. Yeah.
we witnessed it. We were there and we're like,
Yeah.
this is not a dress rehearsal, this
No.
sample life.
No,
Like
it's not.
this is the performance. This is
For
it.
sure. This is it.
So it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
What are you going to decide to do with this limited time that you
What are
have?
you
Because
going
we're
to create?
correct. We're going to all have to face this.
For
And then when
sure.
you start thinking about that, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little teary eyed,
Don't
but,
apologize.
it's real. Like when you start processing that, that message is there, but just as in you see in movies what we call like a double bump. Like sometimes the protagonist needs that extra hit, that extra bump to make them act. And that's, I think, what was COVID for us. It was that second bump for us to say, whoa, you have no excuses now. There's nothing that is distracting you or pulling you away. Like life has halted completely. So
100%.
what are you going to do about it? And that
100%.
was us saying, we're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and writing until 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday.
And then
And that's
going
what we
to our
did.
day jobs. Yeah.
And go to our day jobs.
People think like, oh my gosh, you need all this time. Like, you just need to be consistent. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Even if you're like consistent for 15 minutes every day, start there, build on that, right? And having an accountability partner like yourself, like we're co-creating together, and just it's just such a blessing. So if our listeners, if you're creative, or you're the aspiring creative, like if you can find someone who can hold you accountable, who can push you and be like, hey, what happened to that? You said you were going to drop episode 1 this week. Where is it? Right? Or
Correct.
you said you were going to write that treatment for your film. Where is that? And sometimes people can't find that people, and you know what, you're going to have to be that person for yourself. But I can't, that's not my experience, because I have you, and I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for you.
I love that story you share about me being because you're grateful, but I can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, you get on my damn nerves. Yeah.
But remember that time I called you? Remember that call
Yeah,
I
I'll
gave you
never
when you
forget it.
canceled on
I'll
me?
never forget it. We were supposed to meet up and start working on Butch Baby Mama, right? We've never done this before. We're self-taught, right? If anybody wants the books that we read to learn how to write movies, to learn how to write TV shows, we are happy to share. We're sharers, we're givers, we're lovers. And I think it was like we were supposed to meet up on Monday. I like ghosted you, like, because I'm not a morning person. You are, like, so when we wake up and we do our 5:30 to 7:30 writing sessions, like, it's not easy for me, but I do it because I know, I believe in us. I believe in what we're doing, and I love what we're doing. So that's what gets me up. But I'll never forget that. I was wiping groceries at the time. You had to sanitize. That's what they told you to do. Sanitize everything. You know me. I'm OCD. I'm a germaphobe. So like I had my gloves on. I had the double wipes, the Lysol wipes, massaging the salmon packets, everything. And you called me out and you were like, come on, like, let's do this. Like, let's stop talking about this. Let's really go for it. Like,
Yeah, it's
that,
like, do you want this? I think that was
yeah,
my question to you.
yeah,
Do you want this? Because I'm here, I'm ready, I'm willing,
yeah.
I've got commitments. Like there are other things I could be
Yeah,
doing
you
my
got two
time.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah, like what are we doing? If we're doing it, let's do it. And
yeah,
I think from that time on, it has been nothing. Don't get me wrong, like life happens, right? Like you go on vacation, something happens with my kids, I'll say they're sick, Moon, I can't, come to the meeting. Like there's flexibility in that. I'm not saying we're rigid, but there is a constant energy and a drive that has
right.
not
Just
stopped, I think.
moving the ball forward an inch at least every day. Just doing something towards the goal. Getting it to that goalpost.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I want to go back though and talk a little bit more about why stand up in particular, because most people, I know you said you want to be the number one TV talk show host in America. I understand that you're strategic about it. But some people might say, God, you're strategic, but you went for like the hardest thing possible. Like as we know, that's like number one fear in America is public speaking, let alone stand up comedy. Not just, you're going to have to actually make people laugh.
Yeah.
So for you, how did you become a student? Like, what was your process about how am I going to tackle this thing? I know you obviously, and we were not raised being the center of attention because we have so many family members who are,
Personalities,
yes, big
energy
personalities.
suckers.
Yes.
They
So
love a
you know,
spotlight. They love a
love
spotlight.
the spotlight. Haitian people are good for that. Children are meant to be seen, not heard, all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And you know, I would even describe you as being somewhat
I was
introverted.
very shy growing up, as you know, very shy growing up. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you turn that switch? How did you become a student of comedy? What did you do? Talk a bit about that.
Honestly, when I first started, I didn't know what to do. I think, there's this great quote by Dr. King, as you take each step, the remainder of the staircase will be revealed to you. And so I just stepped out on faith. I just knew that I had something really valuable and something unique and refreshing to offer to, the entertainment industry, to the world, right? And so I just started taking one step at a time. And, as the universe would have it, as God would have it, you meet certain people and you hear about certain opportunities and you submit yourself for, you know, these comedy competitions. Um, and so for me, I started working. I work with an amazing coach right now who's I'm very fortunate that I have the means to afford a coach. Not a lot of people do because I don't have the time. I know we're busy working corporate America, so I had to find what's the fastest way for me to like learn how to do this thing. Really, the learning is by doing and failing and bombing. Like I'll call you like crying and be like, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's so hard. Like it's so emotional. It's so painful. I mean, taking the New York and California bars or the hardest thing I've ever done in life was bury mommy. Nothing will ever surpass that. Second hardest thing I've ever done is stand up comedy. And becoming a lawyer is a close third. Let me be honest. Like it was not easy to become a lawyer. Like my journey was not easy. First time I applied, I didn't get it. Like I'm a dog, right? In the fight. Like I'm the one you want to bet on. I'm gonna get to my destination. And so like it just wasn't easy for me, but I just have this really strong conviction in myself and in a higher power that I know I'm going to figure it out. And so and even I'm approaching my 4-year anniversary in June of taking comedy seriously, right? And going for it. And I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, right? But I definitely know that I'm being hard on myself. I'm definitely not.
Yeah, you are. Can I brag about you a little bit?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So this woman has opened for DL Hughley, performed at Caroline's. If you know anything about comedy, you know that that is like the mecca of comedy. Um, I'm so proud of you. You've opened for Bob the Drag Queen and Peppermint.
Yep.
You were a finalist, Keenan Thompson's comedy competition. That is a national competition, and you were a finalist on that
Yeah.
for 4 years. You're killing it, sis. You're killing
Thanks.
it.
I appreciate that. I
I'm so
appreciate
proud
that.
of you. I'm so
Appreciate that.
proud of you.
Appreciate
And
that.
and what do we always say? You hit the stage, I hit the page.
Right.
And as you're getting stronger, you're on stage. Like I'm doing the very same thing with my writing and focusing on developing scripts for us as we have multiple projects that we're working on right now. And I I didn't know that this person existed, but it took you and seeing you act on faith, act on your self belief to really actually allow myself to even contemplate the possibility that there was a screenwriter and a director in me,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about how we came up with a whole web series called
Yeah.
Moonie.
Moonie, the web series, the Black queer version of Seinfeld, which I mean, killed it. You wrote that and you killed it. We killed it. Like, I mean, it got into what 16 international film festivals. Like, it was screened at the Chinese theater in Hollywood. I mean, we got nominated for a Queerty Award. Like, we went out to LA for the Queerty Awards. Like, we won an award, right? Like, best web series. Like, I mean, and we did it.
I
We
tell
did
people
such a great job
100%, but we have people are like, how do you know what you're writing is funny? And it's like, because it makes me laugh. I know
because
that
we
sounds,
think it's funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I think it's funny, if you think it's funny, it's funny.
Yeah.
And it resonates with people because it's about like microaggressions that Black queer people face, and it's a group of friends that are
Finding the
navigating these
funny in
things.
that, right? Finding the funny
Correct.
in that, the levity in that.
Finding the levity in that. And I had a blast writing it. That whole series, honestly, it healed me in so many ways. I was going through a lot, just emotionally in my marriage, being a mother. I think a lot of mothers can relate to this, feeling like you are disconnected from who you are. Now that you've taken on all these roles, behind all those layers, you've forgotten who you are, what your own self-identity.
Yeah, a lot of mothers really, deal with and grapple with it. It's not easy, and you forget about yourself as a mother, right? A lot of moms do,
100%.
which is
100%.
it's a high cost. It's about balance, right? Life is about balance, right? So
I think balance is bullshit, to be honest with you. I think it's fundamentally about putting yourself first. And it might not be a popular statement, but I think that at the end of the day, you are on this journey with yourself and you do have to care for yourself because you are teaching your children how to care for themselves by how you treat yourself. So
yeah,
that's my little
interesting,
soapbox moment. But
interesting take. Balance is bullshit. Interesting. I mean, I
balance
don't
is
know.
bullshit.
Depends
Balance
on
is
who you
bullshit.
ask.
You cannot find balance, not in with childcare. I'm telling you this right now. As soon as my children walk through the door, my balance is totally off. It is 100% about their needs. And I get that. And that's why I also have my time, right? Like that I'm dealing with. But in that moment, it's 100% about them. Like it
Wow,
is. Like
love it.
because that's the kind of parent I want to be. I want to be able to be there for them and I want them to know that I am present and available to them. Because this is I like Michelle Obama, that's my homie. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God. She talks about that all the time. It's like she grew up in a household where there was never an expectation that outside that home that love and acceptance were given. But inside the home, that is the expectation.
Mhm.
You come home to feel loved. You come home to feel accepted.
I love
That
it.
is that is what is the most important. And that's what I try to show my children. Don't look for that external validation. You get it here. That's where you get fed.
Well, you'll get that and so much more, guys. This was just a little intro into who we are. Moonie Devereaux, Jess Devereaux. We hope you guys tune in to our first episode that's going to drop end of the month. Keep a lookout for that. And we're just so excited to start this with you guys. A Good Laugh podcast. So we'll hope to see you soon.
Yes, and remember to like and subscribe. We need you to do so in order for people to find us. Leave us a review, all that good stuff. And, there's so much more to come. We're going to be playing fun games. We'll have great guests, and you'll get to know more about Moonie and myself. So, as we like to say, the shortest distance between two people is a laugh. So just keep on laughing, and let's keep on bringing people closer together. Thanks for tuning in.
See you later, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.